Hey guys, it's Jen with 2Ns. Today we're going to do a November Babies mani. The inspiration is Topaz. In case you couldn't tell, I am a November baby, and Topaz is my birthstone. So all you November babies, this one's for you. We're going to start with our peel base. You can either do 1 or 2 layers, whichever one you prefer. You're going to have to try to play with it. It's kind of a trial and error thing to see how much or how little of peel base you need for it to work effectively for you. I use UNT or UNT. I have no idea how to say it, but I get my peel base from Amazon, and I really do like this brand. I change it up depending if I use 1 or 2. It depends on how quickly I'm going to want to change my manicure. I do find if I use 2 coats, 2 really thick coats, if I plan on changing it within a few days, that works the best. But if I do want to get more longevity out of my manicure, then I'll do just 1 layer. The thickness also depends on how long it will last for you. I kind of change that up also, just depending on when I'm planning on changing it into the next manicure. So just play with it. You'll see what works for you. You want to make sure that it's completely dry before you start dipping, though. The purpose of peel base is so that you don't have to soak your hands in acetone every time you want to change out your manicure. So typically, when you're done with the color and you want to change your color, you would either do the warm water baggy trick, or you would use foil tips or file down the color. But with peel base, you can just pop them off. It's actually pretty cool, and if you haven't tried it before, I highly recommend it. It typically takes between 5 to 7 minutes for it to completely dry, so don't be in a hurry, just let it completely dry, and then we can get started. So the first color that we're going to use is Butterscotch from Double Dip. We're putting that on our index finger and our ring finger. The second color we're using is Urban Bronze, also from Double Dip. Actually, the entire manicure is a double dip manicure. We're going to put Urban Bronze on our middle finger and then Champagne Sparkle. Champagne Sparkle is going to go on our thumb and our pinky. So to get started, I always like to roll around the jar of whatever powder I'm using. Roll it around, shake it up just to get the powder that's been compacted to fluff up again. I also stir it just to make sure that the powder is really fluffy. It just makes for a smoother application. I always make sure that I have a fresh paper towel or napkin next to me so that I can wipe my brush in between uses. Of course, that doesn't really matter on the first layer, but any subsequent layers, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you wipe your brush so that you don't contaminate your liquids. Start with a very thin coat for the first layer. In fact, I don't even recommend you going the full length of the nail for that first coat. Just go to right above your cuticle with the liquid. This will help so that the powder doesn't pool up there at your cuticle edge. It can make very thick layers if you have too much liquid by your cuticle, if that makes sense. Then go ahead and dip your finger into the powder. You want to make sure that the fingernail is completely covered with the powder. Tap off any excess powder once you're done, and then take an orange stick, or a toothpick also works just as well, and just clean up around the edge of your cuticle. The point of this is to make sure that you don't have any extra powder left over on your skin. And then take a brush and dust off the rest of the powder. Very important to note, if you do get powder or product on your on your skin, then this will cause lifting and your manicure will come off much sooner than anticipated. It just won't last as long. So also, it makes it look much nicer for the finished product. Same thing with your ring finger. Start with a very thin layer of base coat. You want to make sure that you don't go all the way to your cuticle yet on this first layer. And then once you have the layer of base put on, dip your finger into the powder and then tap off the extra powder. and then clean up your cuticles with an orange stick or a toothpick, and then dust it off with a brush. Get all the rest of the powder off. And then we're going to actually do 3 coats of this color. You can only do 2 coats if you want. I just didn't think that the color was rich enough with 2 coats. So I did 3 coats, but it is completely a preferential thing. You do you, and you do what you like. If you haven't tried Double Dips liquids yet, I highly recommend that you do. They are very easy to work with. They're very thin, and the top coat is super shiny. I will have that in the description box below. Make sure you always wipe your brush after every single use, and then dip your finger into the powder again. I like to leave my finger in the powder for a couple of seconds just to really let the liquid absorb it. It's not necessary, but again, I just like to give the liquid a chance to pick up as much powder as it can. And then tap off your powder, clean your cuticle line. It's really not difficult. Sometimes I do find it a little more tricky to get that toothpick around my cuticle, but for the most part, it goes pretty smooth. On that note, I also like to wait a couple of seconds before brushing off the excess powder. So again, I'm just trying to give the liquid the chance at capturing as much powder as it can, if that makes any sense. Now, for the second layer, you definitely want to make sure that you get as close to your cuticle line as possible. This is where we want to do the full nail and make sure that we get as much coverage as we can. And don't forget to wipe your brush. I know I keep saying that, but it is so important that you do that. You get into the good habit of it. If you don't, like I mentioned, you will contaminate your liquid, but especially when you get to your top coat, you will ruin your brush. Your brush can harden. So many things can happen. So get in the good habit of always wiping your brush if it has already touched something. So again, your first layer, your first coat, it's not necessary, but any subsequent layer after that, always wipe your brush before you put it back into the bottle. So moving right along, we are definitely progressing. I have some yellow Cheetos fingertips from the powder. We're going to move on to the champagne sparkle. Roll around the jar to get that glitter to kind of loosen up. It is such a pretty color. Also, if you tap it, it kind of moves those glitter pieces around and up to the top. Make sure you stir it and then start with a very thin layer on your thumb. So the thumb is the next finger that we're doing. And then I did forget to tell you guys that I prefer to start with my solid colors. That way it just has less of a chance of contaminating my other powders. Also, I always use a different brush for my glitter. I never use the same brush that I use with my glitter on my solids. So get 2 different brushes if you can. And then of course make sure that you clean up your cuticles. There's my second glitter brush. See, it's a different one. What can happen if you use the same brush is you could go to brush off the extra powder on a solid color, and you could have a stray piece of glitter in your solid color. So it is definitely not the end of the world if you contaminate your powder. However, if you are choosing a solid color and choosing a glitter, it's probably because we prefer to have no glitter in the solid color. So do everything that you can to make sure that you don't get glitter in your solids. But again, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to let you guys watch for a few without me yapping your ear off. No music either, so just enjoy the quiet and I'll be back shortly. Also, don't forget to dust off the extra powder, because what can happen if you forget to do that is when you take the brush back to your nail, it gets very lumpy and kind of goopy. It just doesn't apply very well at all, and you could contaminate your liquid again and also mess up your nail. I've obviously done this, so that's how I know from experience. So just always make sure you get the extra powder off your nail before you take the liquid back to it. It's definitely a mistake that we only make once. I'm going to speed up the video here for the next couple of dips so that it's not so completely repetitive for you. That way you can still watch it and see it, just in a little bit faster time so that the video isn't forever long. And just a reminder, I did 3 dips on each nail. And I'm also going to let you watch in silent. Not sure if you noticed or not, but I like to use cupcake liners. The reason for that is because it is a much easier cleanup. As you can see, I did spill some glitter, and instead of wasting it, now I can just very easily pour it back into the jar of glitter. So no waste, as you can see. And now we're going to move on to the third color, which is Urban Bronze. Don't forget to turn the jar and just kind of loosen up all of that powder in there before we use it. And then stir it if you need to. Just kind of tap the jar, like I mentioned, to kind of bring those glitter pieces up to the top. Now with the chunky glitters, I prefer to lay my finger into the powder as opposed to dipping it or pouring the powder over. I find that it makes for a better, smoother application. Those chunkier glitters, when you lay your finger into the powder, they kind of hit the liquid first, so they stick on a little better. You'll see what I mean here. So place your finger into the powder and then tap it off. You are going to want a plastic bag for this, but I did not get a plastic bag until the second time around. So make sure that you clean up your cuticle. This is especially important with glitter because those glitter chunks will go over your skin and then they'll poke you and it just won't look very good. Use your finger, and this is where you're going to want to use a plastic bag. So do as I say, not as I do, but use your finger and kind of press down on those glitter chunks to smooth it out and just really make those glitter pieces lay flat. And then of course dust off the extra glitter. If you decide not to heed my warning and use a plastic bag for that, you will get glue on your fingertips. Of course it comes off eventually, but it just doesn't feel very good. So that's where we're at right now. We are 1 layer in. Of course, if you like it this way, you can leave it. I wanted more of the glitter chunks, so I did another layer. Of course, I always feel like the more glitter, the better. And then don't forget to tap your jar again to get those glitter pieces up to the top before you dip for the second time. And here we are with the plastic bag. It just is so much easier if you use a plastic bag to do this. You don't get glue on your fingers, and you just have more control over it. And you can use more pressure to make sure that those glitter pieces lay flat. And don't forget to use your glitter brush. And then once you are completely done with all of the layers that you're going to do on your fingers, then you're going to go in and do a layer of clear on each finger. The reason that we're doing this, there's a couple of them actually. One of the biggest reasons that we're doing it is to make sure that we protect our manicure from filing. Because when we go in and we start filing down our powder, especially if you have any designs, then you can file that design away. When you use glitter, sometimes you can file away some of the glitter, and then of course when you're using solid colors, then you can file away some of that color. So we're protecting our manicure with the clear coat. With the clear base. Some people also like to use the clear base over everything so that when you go in and use your activator, the brush is not actually touching a color, it's touching clear, so it's less likely of a chance to contaminate your liquids with the color. So if you've ever heard the word encapsulate, that's what it means. You're encapsulating your manicure with the clear base. And another thing, clear powder, for whatever reason, is stronger than color powder. So it gives your nails that extra strength if you need it. So once you've encapsulated each finger, then you're going to take your activator and you're going to activate each nail. The activator is what makes your dip powder hard. If you don't use activator, your nails will never harden and you can't file them. So I've actually done it before. It's pretty mushy and I've ruined a nail. So again, it's probably a mistake that you make only once. So activate your nails and then it's time to file them. Get them the shape that you want. I always start with the side walls first and just make sure that the shape is good, and then I go into the front edge. You can either use a hand file or an e-file, whichever one you prefer. I find that I don't need an e-file a whole lot. The powders and liquids that I use are pretty self-leveling. For the most part, they're pretty smooth and they're not that thick. So a hand file is plenty good for me. Usually. Make sure that you go in and you file around your cuticles though, because sometimes the powder does build up right around there. So once you're done filing your nails, then it is time to buff them. When you buff them, you want to make sure that you get all of the scratches out of your nails from your file and just make them really, really smooth. This is going to make the finished product look that much better. Once you're done buffing, wash your hands. So you can go wash your hands. You can use soap if you want. Just try to avoid getting the soap on your nails. You're just trying to get all of the excess dust and powder and anything that's on your nails off before we do the top coat. So wash your hands and then go in and do your second coat of activator. And then once the activator is dry, very, very important to let the activator dry. Now we're going to do the gems. So I got the gems that I needed out first. It's just a lot easier if you have everything that you need. I used a matte top coat for the butterscotch color. So I put one layer of top coat on both of my nails. And then there is a trick that I used. I used a dotting tool to put the gems on, but in order to get the gems to stick onto the dotting tool, I had to take a little bit of the top coat, and you'll see what I do here in the video in just a second, but I put a little bit of the top coat on the plastic baggie that's there on my right hand side so that I could dip the dotting tool into the top coat. And then once I had the top coat on the dotting tool, I could just touch the gem and it would stick to the dotting tool so that I could place it on my finger. So here, if you see, I just put a little bit of the top coat there on that plastic piece. Now I have my dotting tool and I'm just going to get a little bit on the end and then I can pick up my gem. And you can obviously put it wherever you want, but for this manicure, I did 3 gems on both nails. And they were as evenly spaced as I could get them. And then if you need to re-dip into the top coat so that it the gems stick onto your tool, then that's okay too. So that's what I did. Go ahead and watch for a few and I'll be right back. And if you need to move the gem around a little bit once you place it on your finger, you can certainly do that because we are using a gel top coat, so it won't dry until it's cured. So you definitely have some wiggle room in being able to move it, to move the piece to the place that you want. If the top coat ends up drying on your dotting tool, it's okay. You can just file it off. It should come off, but if it doesn't, just file it. It's looking pretty good so far. What do you guys think? Once you're happy with the placement of your gems, then we're going to go in and do another layer of the matte top coat. We want to make sure that you get in between the gems also, but be careful because it is still wet and they could still move on you. And make sure that you cap your free edge. When I say cap your free edge, I mean get the top coat on the edge of your nail, on the top edge of your nail, just to protect the whole thing. Once that is done, then you're going to cure your nails for 60 seconds. The top coat will not dry without a light, so you need to make sure that you cure them so that we can do the shiny top coat on the rest of our nails. So once your nail is cured, we're going to come back with a lint-free wipe and alcohol and wipe the other nails because we're going to use the shiny top coat for this. If you remember, I said it was very important for your activator to be dry. This is why. The top coat will be ruined if you get activator on it. So wipe your nails, make sure the activator is dry, and then go in with your shiny top coat. You need to do 2 coats of this or it won't dry properly. Now, unfortunately, my camera ran out of space as I was recording this video, so I was not able to record me putting on the top coat, but I will tell you what I did. You will do 2 layers of top coat. The first layer, you're going to wait until it starts to dry, and you can tell it's ready because it looks like it's shrinking on your nails. Once it starts to do that, then you'll go in with your second layer of top coat. You do not need to cure the shiny top coat with a lamp, but you do need to finish curing the matte top coat with a lamp. So once I was done with my shiny top coat, then I went and I cured my nails again for 90 seconds. This also helped to make sure that the shiny top coat was completely dry before I put my cuticle oil on. So always make sure to put cuticle oil on after you're done with your manicure because you beat your cuticles up and they deserve love. So thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.